This episode of Gather and Go is sponsored by the Malta Tourism Authority. Malta is living evidence of the 2,000-year-old history of Christianity from its origins. Visit Malta to explore more history on a pilgrimage and learn more at visitmalta.com. All right, everybody, my guest today is a former tourism entrepreneur who built a small tour company in Cambodia into a thriving travel network across Southeast Asia. After years focusing on her organization's philanthropy and local impact, she successfully sold the tour company and moved on to new endeavors. Today, she's a business advisor and travel partnership ambassador for Cultivate Advisors, where she draws on her experience to help other tourism entrepreneurs bring clarity to their visions, solidify their finances, and achieve their goals. Andrea Ross, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'm so excited to be here.
I am really excited to have you here. I love your story, particularly because it's kind of a full life cycle story. You know, we interview a lot of people here who have started businesses and are running them and growing them and have success stories to tell, but you've been through that whole cycle. And so I'm really eager to have you share so much of that experience with our listeners. Let's start by how you found yourself in Cambodia, because that's a fascinating story in itself.
Yes. Well, originally I found myself in Cambodia in the back of a pickup truck. So it was literally a bumpy road to get there. But I had graduated college. I had wanted to do an around the world trip. Prices were really expensive. So I worked for a year and then literally saw an ad on a billboard for cheap flights to Southeast Asia. And I thought, well, that'll work. So flew to Southeast Asia, spent 3 months backpacking around Southeast Asia, did not have Cambodia on the itinerary, added it at the last minute because we had just heard great things about it, as you do while you backpack around and meet people, and literally took a pickup truck to get there. Broke every rule that Lonely Planet told us in like the first hour of our journey, right? We went off road. We were driving at night. We had no security. We broke all the rules, and then we got there and just fell in love with it. And really realized that it was this amazing place that was on a lot of people's bucket list. And it was really set. This was just after the Civil War, early 2000s, and it was just set to boom. But with a lack of infrastructure, a lack of knowledge, a lack of a tourism community. And we thought, well, if we come here, we can create jobs versus take jobs. And so that is literally how we found ourselves in Cambodia, running originally a B&B.
Yeah. And give us the quick overview of how you went from B&B to full tour operator to all of a sudden you've got offices in different countries and you're taking people all throughout the region.
Yeah, I mean, I give my clients a lot of credit for that, right? A lot of it was requested, and so you got that security of knowing, okay, people want this. People are saying they need this, right? So we had a B&B, and then people would say, oh, we're coming to stay with you. Can you set up a tour for us? Oh, well, we should start a tour company. So we did that. And then they say, well, we loved our tour with you in Cambodia, but man, we didn't, Thailand just wasn't the same. And so we're like, we should start an office there. So a lot of it was just what our clients were asking for, and we were learning as we built. And so we slowly started opening offices in Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, and then obviously Myanmar at the end once it opened up a little bit more. And then obviously we did some philanthropic work because we were just part of those communities. We were living there. Our teams were living there. We were intrinsically involved, and we saw the need. And so that was really how we started to kind of build out the company as a whole.
Yeah. Can you give us sort of the timeline from when you started the B&B through sort of the whole life cycle to when you decided it's time to be acquired and move on?
Yeah, I'm giggling because it's a blur. I mean, I know it all happened. I had some kids in there too, right? Like it is a bit of a blur, but I think it was really over about a 12-year period where we moved to Cambodia, started the B&B, took about 6 months to get it up and running and open. And then, we got very lucky with some media coverage, and we were fully booked for the first year. And that allowed us to then expand the B&B to a hotel. So by the end, we had a 12 bungalow property that we were renting out. And then obviously we use local properties as well. And then I would go in live in the other countries 3 to 6 months as we built our operations there. So yeah, I think all in all, it was about a 12-year period where I was living in Cambodia, growing the business, building out the hotel. My ex-husband ran the hotel, so he was great at keeping that running while I was kind of all over the place, building out our offices. And then at the end of that, I moved here to the States. And then I worked here for another 3 or so years, building out our sales and marketing office and really building out that back end that our clients needed by then. Again, it was a client demand, right? They wanted to be able to get me on the phone or get our team on the phone. They wanted to be able to get quick responses to emails. When we were purely based in Southeast Asia, that wasn't happening because we just couldn't be as responsive because of the time difference. So again, a lot of the evolution was client demand based.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, it's easy to look back and say, "Oh yeah, 12 years and this happened and that happened," and
I know.
it's like hindsight is much rosier than I'm sure
Yeah, there
what
were
it
a
felt
lot
like.
of tears. Yeah, I want to be clear, like a lot of tears in those 12 years, a lot of sweat, a lot of hard work, but also just working with some of the best people. It just people who were so excited to be doing this, especially in countries like Cambodia, Laos, where we were helping develop the tourism industry. We were described as pioneers in philanthropic travel by Condé Nast Traveler, right? So we felt like we got to be leading this charge, and that was such an energizing experience. And it was just a very exciting time to be in the
Yeah.
region. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yes, hindsight, like that was magical. In real life, it was a heck of a lot of work and it was a daily grind.
Yeah. Talk to me about some of the pain points in, let's say, the early phase. Obviously, I'm sure there was, the working in a different culture, being in a different, country, language, but from a business perspective, what were some of those
Yeah.
pain points that you encountered that may be common for other tourism entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, we had some unique ones. I remember one day, Brandon, my ex-husband, and I like sat down at the end of the day, and he's like, "What'd you get done today?" And I'm like, "I think I got pillowcases made, but not entirely sure." And I was like, "How about you?" He's like, "I think I ordered some rose bushes." Right? Like there was so much with the language barrier and the cultural barriers, and so a lot of it was just trying to figure out whether you actually ordered pillow cushions or you were going to get a skirt tomorrow. And then, but when it comes to the business, what I've learned being a business advisor, I think, is that business is business is business. Like
Mm,
I do advising for tourism businesses, but I also do advising for engineering businesses, accounting businesses, right? I work across the spectrum. And the truth is the challenges are the same. Whether you're in
mm,
Cambodia, in the US, running an engineering company or running a tourism company, the challenges are the same, which is how do I duplicate myself? Right? Like
mm,
I'm working 80 hours a week or whatever it is. I'm exhausted. How do I duplicate myself so that I can step back a little? How do I force myself to work on my business so I can grow some of the processes and the procedures and build out training when really I'm just holding a fire extinguisher trying to put out fires? And so I think, we had those same challenges of like, we need to hire somebody. We don't have the budget to hire somebody because we're still
right.
growing. And so just being in that middle ground where you're trying to grow, but you need a budget to grow and you're constantly trying to balance that out. I think that was probably the biggest challenge. And I think that's most of my clients' biggest challenge.
Yeah. I love that language about duplicating yourself. I think every small business owner instinctually feels that issue in their bones. How do you go through, advising somebody and coaching them through that situation where they are the primary creative or the primary, people person, the primary sales agent? Uh, how do you solve that problem?
Yeah, I think it's such a good question, and I had such a revelation around it. I had moved back to the U.S. I was just so stressed, and a friend of mine turned to me and said, you're just not as important as you think you are."
Hmm.
And like at first I was like, well, that's rude. And then I really sat with that for a minute and I was like, no, he's right. I'm just not as important as I think I am. And I had hired this amazing operations manager, and I was kind of cutting her off at the knees, right? I was still
Mm,
trying to do a lot of it. I was delegating her tasks, but not responsibilities. And
mm,
I really had to step back and be like, no, I don't need to duplicate myself. I need to find people who are better at the things I'm not great at, and then train people on the things I am good at. And that was a big growth opportunity for me and for the business, right? And I think I talk to my clients about that a lot, which is we're not trying to clone ourselves. Can you imagine that many like mini type A entrepreneurs running around? Like
right.
that sounds not fun. What we're trying to do is find the people who are going to help us grow our business and who actually bring us up and bring the business up, and we're just not as important as we think we are. Like the truth
Yeah.
is, when you step back and you let somebody else step in and you empower them and you give them the knowledge and the experience, right? So you're setting them up for success. Often they can far outreach what I could have done. My operations manager was worlds better at running operations than I was. And as soon as I let that go, my business had so much more opportunity for growth because I could then focus on the high level idea generation that I was good at and that really
Yeah.
energized me.
Why do we tend to hold on to those things longer than we should? Is we're just in a rhythm? We were solopreneurs when we started and we had to do everything. Is there some pride? Is it I don't trust people? I mean, what's going on, under the surface?
I think it's all of those things. I mean, obviously, sometimes ego plays into it. For me, it was part of that. I just didn't believe somebody could do it as well as I did it. So I think
Mm,
there's that. I think there's a trust factor. Even as I say it as an advisor, I get a little bit of anxiety of like, but what if the person they're empowering doesn't deliver? Right. And so, yeah, of course, like there's the trust factor, but then there's also knowing how to set that person up for success. And I think a lot of us that go into being an entrepreneur in whatever industry we're in, we're not always that confident in our management of people. We're usually
mm,
pretty confident that we know our business, we know what we want to achieve. We probably know how to do it because we did it, right? We started it, we wore all the hats. But I'm not sure we have that innate confidence of like, I know how to run a team and for that team to be successful. And I think that's what I work with the most with my entrepreneurs is like, how do we step up as leaders and like really intentionally lead our team to success? Because once we do that, I think it becomes a lot easier to let go because we've
yeah.
given them the tools they need to be successful. And now we get to lead instead of do, right? We need to step away from all the doing and do more of the leading.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So as you get past those initial growing pains, you're in that uh, middle ground. You've got some staff, you've got some revenues, maybe you got some profits, and that's a great feeling for the first time.
It is.
There are new problems that come with each of
Yeah.
those benefits. What were some of those middle ground problems that you experienced, and how did you navigate them?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I was opening offices in other countries. So I was kind of dealing with the remote work situation before we all were, right? Like
Hmm.
post
Yep.
COVID, during COVID, when we were all suddenly remote and everybody's like, how do we do this and Zoom and Skype and all the things? And I was like, oh, good. I've been doing that.
Yeah.
That was not new for me. But I think at the time that we started building those offices, that remote work environment of not being next to somebody all the time and being able to dialogue with them and communicate with them and having to kind of almost inorganically create that scenario, right? How do we do that? Do we hop on a Skype call? Do we try to get together as a team? Like, what does that need to look like? I think for us, that was a big growing pain. And I see it now again with my clients as remote work, hybrid work is really becoming the norm. They're having to adjust to that. They're used to being able to go to the water cooler, chat with everybody that's in the office that day, take people out to lunch, like really create that culture very organically. And I think that is changing. And for us, it changed long before it changed for the rest of the world. But I think that was still a challenge that we faced and that today's businesses face is how to lead in a remote environment.
Yeah. Okay. So I gotta see a glimpse of one or two pages from that playbook because this is a debate that is still raging in many places, inside and outside of tourism.
Yes.
Do you believe it's possible? You must believe it's possible for remote teams to succeed. So, how do you coach them to do it specifically if they're used to that in person water cooler experience?
Yeah, I do think it's possible. I think it takes even more. Again, I'm going to use this word. This is my 2025 word. It takes more intentionality. You have to intentionally show up as a leader, and you have to kind of, again, force your team a little bit to embrace that culture. And I've seen companies that have let that go, and their employees kind of become these little islands, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, hey, they can stay islands, like they're doing a good job, but like, how do we bring it together as an archipelago? Like we've got to create some communication chains here. We've got to create some intentional togetherness. And I
Yeah.
think you have to set about doing that. There are different ways to do it. One of the biggest things that I preach in my advising, and I utilized in my company, was regular meetings that are high impact, right? So I know we all get meeting fatigue. We all get Zoom fatigue. Like I understand that. So how do we make sure that the meetings we are having are as high impact as they can be? Whether that's an annual planning meeting, whether that's a quarterly recap, whether that's a monthly all team meeting, whether that's one-on-one meetings. I just at NTA, I talked a lot about how to make those one-on-one meetings really impactful for you and for the employee and for your whole team, because we also as leaders tend to try to lead our entire team instead of creating leaders who then lead the
Mm.
team. And I think that that's that middle ground you're talking about of like, okay, cool, it's not just me anymore. Now I have
Yeah.
these people working for me. How do I make them into leaders so they have people working for them? That's really how you scale a business. Like I genuinely believe the scaling of a business starts with the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's wonderful. Now, let's get towards the end of that life cycle. How did you know it was time to exit? And what were the signs that made you say, okay, this is something I can sell? Because I think there are a lot of people in tourism right now who are at the end of their careers, or they're just ready for something else, and they have no idea. How do I exit? Can I sell? Do I just try to find somebody to give this to? Can I sell it for $100,000? Can I sell it for $1 million? Like I don't know what to do. So tell us your
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to start by saying I didn't know what to do either. And I think you're absolutely right that I see that all the time. I see people wanting to step back and just not knowing what that could look like. And so I've really embraced that because I think I was in the same place. And I'll tell you, it's a fun story. I was at Disney World with my kids. I was a single mom. I had my kids with me. My dad and mom had organized for us and the grandkids to all go to Disney World. And we were sitting watching the fireworks from our hotel because they splurged, they spoiled us.
Nice.
And my email, I was checking email and it was just buzzing. And, it's
Mm.
travel. We all know it. It's intense. It's a lot. I had a great leadership team. I had a great team. Even with that, I was the owner. Like it was me. I was the entrepreneur. And I remember sitting there just thinking, it's time for a change. I
Mm.
can't keep doing this. My kids are
Yeah.
getting older. They need more attention and I need more attention. I felt like I needed to just pick my head up and like come up
Right.
for air a little bit. And that was my moment. I remember I turned to my sister and I said, I think I got to figure out an exit. And she's like, what? Like in the middle of these fireworks. And then I did. And I really did it grassroots because I didn't know what I was doing, quite honestly. So, I thought, who do I know that might be interested in this business? And I put out feelers and found a colleague of mine who we had kind of traded staff. Like
Mm.
he had a woman who would work for him. She came to work for me. He and I would see each other at all the conferences, right? So like we had a relationship. I really admired his business, his philanthropic purpose. Wild Frontiers is an amazing company. And I thought this fits, these cultures fit. And that was very important to me. And so reached out to him. So very grassroots, very organic, just trying to figure it out. And we really worked it out internally in-house. I think now, after the additional schooling I've gone through and then just the additional experience with my clients, there is a more formalized approach to that that I
Yeah.
think we ended up getting to a really good spot, and I have no regrets. It was a great choice, and I think Journeys Within was in great hands with Wild Frontiers, and I had a great 5 years staying on and working with Wild Frontiers. So it was all incredibly positive. But I think looking back, now there's a formality that I think can allow you to really understand what your enterprise value is as a company. We have a health and value assessment with Cultivate Advisors that we've set up that just gives people a really impactful way of seeing where their business is. And, often we forget, we're always thinking, okay, our business is worth our revenue and our profit, right? That's all that matters. I got to get the revenue up. I got to get the profit up. And actually, when it comes down to it, what businesses are worth, and I was lucky because I had a good enterprise value. I didn't know the word for it back then, but the idea being you're always going to have a revenue and a profit number. But what changes is what your multiplier is. Right? You take that revenue, you take that profit, you multiply it by a certain number, and that gives you the value of your company. There's a range in what that multiplier could be. If your company runs really well and you have certain things in place, you have a high health score, you have a high enterprise value, your number is going to potentially be as high as 6.
Wow.
If you don't have clean financials, you have an owner that's working way too much in the business, you don't have those SOPs and processes built out, your number is going to be a 2. That's a huge difference if you think about it, right? You're taking, let's say you have $1 million profit, you're deciding by the health of your business whether that number is the multiplier is a 2 or a 6. It's a big difference in what you end up walking away with. So when I work with companies, we're not just working on that top line revenue, bottom line profit. We're working on the full enterprise value of the organization, because when it comes down to it, that's what most buyers are looking for. Yeah, sure. They want a profitable business. They want high revenue. But what they really want to see is that they can walk in, take over that business and run it successfully, even if the owner steps back completely.
So if I think I'm maybe about 5 years from an exit as an owner, obviously I've got revenue and profit on my mind. What are some things that I need to start implementing over the next 5 years to go from a 2x multiplier toward that 6x multiplier?
Yeah. You've got to think about your financials. Are they clean and clear? Are you keeping them updated? Can anybody go in and understand them? You've got to think about your growth opportunities, right? So that's sales. Do you have a sales team in place? Are they well trained? Do they have clear processes, scripts, follow-up emails, right? Is it all really dialed in? And is it successful? Are you tracking conversion rates? Are you tracking, knowing where you are and where the opportunities lie? Marketing, no more just throwing spaghetti on the wall, right? Like, what does the data tell us? What's working? What's our ROI on the different initiatives that we're planning through marketing? And do we have that clearly mapped out? Then you have the kind of sustainability side of like, how do we sustain the growth that we'd like to see? That's our team. Do we have a solid team in place that if I, as the owner, step away completely, they can really run the business? And somebody stepping into this business just has to lead them. They're not having to run the business themselves. And then recruiting, do I have a clean, clear process around recruiting? And then around the whole thing is productivity. How am I using technology? Do I have a clear CRM? Do I have software that's helping me run my business? Have I automated a lot of my business? So if you take all of those things and pull them together, that's really how you're getting that enterprise value. That's how you're shifting from that 2 times multiplier to that 6 times multiplier.
Yeah. It sounds like those are the things that business owners need to be doing anyway, even if they're not trying to sell. And it sounds like that's what working on your business means, right?
It is. And we joke about it, right? My analogy is always, you go to sell your house, right? And the realtor comes in and they're like, you need to remodel your kitchen and these tiles are hideous and you've got to clean out that closet, right? And you go nuts and you get it all done. And then you walk into your house and you're like, oh, I wish I lived here. Right? Like we've all done that, where we've renovated our homes for sale, got the curb appeal up, and then driven in and thought, why am I leaving? And I
Yeah.
see that a lot with businesses. The truth is, if you create a high enterprise value, if you're doing all those things that I was just talking about, truthfully, you might show up and be like, hold on, why am I exiting this? This is giving me a
Right.
good return. I enjoy the hours I'm spending on it. And you may decide, forget it, I'm not putting it on the market. I can grow this thing and ride it out because it's not taking all of me to do that. So I have seen that happen. It's really rewarding when that happens, when an entrepreneur kind of turns around and is like, oh, hey, turns out I built the house I want to live in.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Now, you've told me before that you think anyone who lived through the pandemic in tourism has some PTSD. Uh,
Yeah.
I lit up when you said that because I've had that thought for 5 years now. Tell us what you mean by that, and
Yeah.
maybe some things that you found have helped tourism business owners address that and get
Yeah.
over it in a healthy way.
Yeah, I mean, I hear it over and over again, right? Where we're talking about, okay, well, let's talk about the last 10 years of your business. What worked? What didn't work? How did we get to where we are today? And people are like, well, 2019 was this great year. And then I had this much in revenue booked for 2020 and then, COVID. And they like immediately shut down. Like
Mm,
it's almost a visceral reaction that we have. And then they skip, right? And they're
yeah,
like, and then 2022. And
right.
that's true. Like I understand that because we all shut down in those
Yeah,
2 years. But
yeah,
I think what we don't take into account is that, quite honestly, we didn't shut down. We were on phone calls, negotiating with people whether they would take credit instead of a refund, getting yelled at, dealing with people who were potentially stuck in I mean, we had people stuck, not stuck, but like we had to get them home in a
right.
different way than we thought we were going to. So we were dealing with some pretty intense issues while we were also very scared for ourselves, our family, our friends, and potentially our partners and community overseas. And I
Yeah.
think we are all, that sits with us. And I had a client the other day with some of the chaos that's happening now with tariffs. She just said, I can't do it again. I can't rebuild again. That was my rebuild, right? I came back from COVID and I rebuilt, and that was it. I don't have another rebuild in me. And
Mm,
I think we all feel that. I think COVID was incredibly heavy. I think there were some very hard calls. We were letting go of our staff, who most of us loved. We were trying to balance it. And there was that, like, it just kept going, right? Like, I remember in March being like, I'm going to take a sabbatical and save us that money, and we'll all be back in July. And I mean, it was just so naive at the time.
right.
Now looking
Right.
back, you can be like, that was so naive. But then in the truth, we realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to cut it. And we really were going to have to lay off the whole team. Most of my clients, they went through some level of layoffs. They went through a lot of phone calls with clients. They had to bring back a lot of clients. They had a lot, and the clients were stressed, whether they were stuck somewhere or whether they had a trip they were supposed to be leaving for. And we were trying to decide, do you go? Do you stay? What's going to open? What's going to close? It was heavy. It was a very heavy time. I think what I tell my clients now is we have come back from that, and we
Mm,
need to not just try to ignore it, but like what did we learn from it? Because we did get through it. The
yeah.
clients that are still around, we got through it. How did we get through it, and how does that help define our culture going forward? Because most of the people that got through it, they got through it because they had strong financials going into it.
Yep.
They got through it because they had a strong team who understood the hard decisions we had to make. And we got through it because we had clients who appreciated us and were willing to make it work with us.
Mm,
Those are lessons that we can carry on with us and that we want to perpetuate for as long as we can, because it lends itself to the success of our business. So I think trying to turn it into a little bit more of a, how do we focus on the positive from it, right? Like have the Mr. Rogers approach to it. But I also think it's feeling it too, and understanding that was traumatic, and it was okay that it was traumatic, and there were hard lessons learned as well. And we have to take away from that and be better, do better. And that's how we move forward.
yeah. And hopefully with those lessons learned, we can be a little bit less fearful about whatever is next, be it a health scare, be it climate concerns, be it tariffs, geopolitics. And I even feel like I saw that when the war in Ukraine started. Like, 20 years ago, Americans would have stopped going to Europe when there was war in
Yeah,
Ukraine. And
agreed.
now they're like, giddy up, boy, let's go. I'm not missing my
Yeah.
vacation.
Yeah. No, I think we have, I don't know if harden's the right word, but we have toughened up a little bit and we've realized we can do hard things, right? As companies, we can do
Yeah.
hard things. We can weather those storms. And sometimes I joke, I had a client the other day who was like, oh man, these tariffs. And I was like, yeah, but this isn't COVID, right?
Right.
Like you got through that, you can get through this. Like this is a baby compared to
Yeah.
that. So, I think to some extent, hopefully we've gone through the toughest challenge of our generation in terms of tourism and the world shutting down on us. And now we can just go, we can get through some of the smaller challenges that we face.
Yeah. I love that. So, what is the best way if somebody is listening to you and thinking, I need some of Andrea in my business, in my life?
Yeah.
What's the best way for people to connect with you, or maybe even start the discussion about working with you?
Yeah, they can email me, Andrea at cultivateadvisors.com. And I think the first step that I recommend for any business is to do the health and value assessment. Go in, and I can send a link to them, but go and take that health and value assessment, because that's really going to show you, where are you? Where is your enterprise value? Not just what's the value of your company, but what could the value of your company be, right? If we go
Mm,
from that 2 times multiplier to that 6 times multiplier, because we really work on the business, what could that look like? And I think that's often really eye opening. I do that with clients, and there's often a surprise factor there of like, oh, okay, this feels doable suddenly, where it feels very big and almost ethereal at times, trying to value a business. And I think when
yeah.
you take that HVAC assessment, and then I'm always happy, I offer any listener a 2 hour free advising session where we will get on and look at the results of their HVAC and not HVAC, HVA, look at their results of their health and value assessment. I don't know anything about HVAC systems, so if that's the problem, they should not reach out to me. But we can review their HVA and really talk through, like, what could they be doing? What should their roadmap be for the next year, 18 months, 2 years, to get them to a position where, like you said, they might not want to sell. Maybe they do want to exit still, or maybe they want to live in their fancy house they fixed up. So I think that's really the first step, is to take the HVA and then sit down with me in that deep dive session to really map out, like, what are the priorities. And then really it's up to them. Does it make sense to work with me to help get that done? Or is that something they can then walk away with and go and execute themselves? Like, that's really the goal, is to get them in a place, either with me or without me, to go and execute some of those big picture, working on the business items to bring that enterprise value up.
Yeah, I love that. It's so generous with your time and your insight, and I know our listener community will benefit from that.
Good.
I could keep you all day talking about this stuff. It's fascinating, and I love your story. I want to let you move on to other stuff I know you have going on, but before I do, we have some questions we ask everybody that are just for fun. So
Okay.
you can answer these off the top of your head, no sweat. When you book travel, are you booking window seats or aisle seats?
Oh, always window. I don't
Yeah.
pee on planes. I refuse. I don't. I have a very
So
big bladder, and I sit in the window and I do not move, and it feels like a vacation.
so even like overseas flight, you're just staying put.
I am pretty strong. There are some, if I'm going to Cambodia, I probably have to get up. But yeah, for the most part, I tuck into my little window seat. I put my little headphones on, and I am on vacation. I'm happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm envious of that talent for sure. What is one thing in your carry on that you wouldn't travel without?
Ooh, that's a good one. Noise canceling headphones.
Essential.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Because it does not feel like a vacation on a plane if you don't have them.
Yeah. Your ears have just been assaulted for hours if you're sitting near the engine, especially.
Yeah, exactly. Or a child, or yes, your fellow humans, right?
Yes,
Like, no, noise canceling headphones are key.
for sure. Yeah. If you had a free airline pass and a week with nothing else to do, where would you be headed next?
Oh, well, I will say it wasn't free, but my son is graduating this year. So we're doing a graduation trip up to Juneau, Alaska for a week.
Nice.
I have a client up there, Above and Beyond Alaska, whom I love, and I'm going to go visit them and take some of their experiences. And I cannot wait. I'm so excited, like bears and whales and all the things. So I'm gonna choose that. I'm lucky because I already get to do it. But yeah, that's coming up.
That's amazing. Alaska is one of my favorite places, and
I've never been, so I'm so excited.
You're in for a thrill for sure, for sure. So last question is, what is one thing you have seen or done on the road that you wish you could go back and experience again with somebody you love?
Okay, well, we don't have 10 days. I mean, I am the quintessential, like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. I want everybody to come with me.
Right.
I will say I think, you know what I think it is? It's diving in the Raja Ampat. I went on the Sillalona, which is this beautiful boat in the Raja Ampat, and we went diving, and I was younger then. My kids were babies, so I went by myself. If I could take my kids with me on that trip, it would just, yeah, that would be magical.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe one day it'll work out.
Yeah. Sillalona crew, if you're listening, like, let's go. I'm ready.
There you go. Let's do it. Andrea is available. She will make time for you.
She will make it work.
Absolutely. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thanks, Brian. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this interview. I want to let you know that conversations like this are just part of what you will hear if you tune into a full episode of the Gather and Go podcast. When you listen, you'll get travel news you may not hear anywhere else, along with some really helpful road tips, some smart analysis, and maybe even a hot take from me about issues that are impacting travel right now. Now, you can hear this full episode along with many others by searching for Gather and Go in your favorite podcast player, or you can click on the link right below this video or one of the videos right here to my side. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.